Rail Up, the future mobility podcast with innovators and leaders of the ecosystem. Presented by Sebastian Sperker.
This episode is not only special because of my guest, but also because it is the outcome of a previous Rail Up podcast and an idea by Fabian Stöffel and me. We delved into the importance of connecting inspiring minds to shape the rail ecosystem, and that's exactly the key of this special episode. We aim to broaden the reach of our joint fellows and to include an English segment in the format. We plan to have for the upcoming Rail Talk events a podcast with a distinguished member of the Rail Talks community. And today we begin this journey with my special guest Larissa Zeichhardt, the CEO of the LAT Group, an innovative infrastructure company from Berlin. We will discuss her experience in taking over family business and how innovation can be driven in collaboration with universities. She will reveal her ambitious plan on a global scale. I'm happy to have Larissa join us live today from the University of Wildow, close to Berlin. How would you describe yourself, rather a leader or an innovator?
I think the best is the combination of the two. And I am a leader and I like to copy good ideas. So more the leader than the innovator.
Let's begin our journey. In the last episode, we delved into autonomous pods, magnetic levitation and subterranean transport. But for these innovations to function, one crucial element is needed, and that's connectivity. Dietmar highlighted in his Rail Up keynote that connectivity is vital for all of us. Today we are focusing on the infrastructure that enables the magic of connectivity. We are discussing tangible elements like cables that facilitate these connections. And we are spotlighting a family-owned construction company called the LAT Group and the dynamic leader Larissa. We will talk about the rail business, about construction works and her personal journey. So let's dive into your world, Larissa.
Perfect. I hope you're wearing orange because we're in construction.
And a helmet.
Oh, no helmet needed.
Okay.
Cables are usually under the earth. So probably a stereotype. Just people like bosses, especially the female ones, with a helmet under their arms. I have to do it a lot, but it's not a prerequisite.
Okay. So Larissa, may I ask you to introduce yourself briefly?
My name's Larissa. I lead LAT together with my sister, Arabelle. I'm 42 years old. I'm an engineer, electrical, by degree actually, and also by passion. And I worked in packaging and in digital and automation in packaging before I joined our family-owned business. And now I'm in cable construction.
Well, that's like a big jump. And I think that would be also one of the first questions. You work for a big corporation. And now you are a managing director, CEO of your family business. So what's the biggest difference between these two worlds?
Oh, the crucial one's probably size. We have around 130 employees. In my past job, 2 zeros added. I get there more or less. But the other thing is, and I can judge it, I think, and I'm just going to say it, I think we have a lot more passion for what we do. We're very close to each other. We are a family. And we get things done together. In the decision-making, of course, we are much faster. We're smaller, and that's the thing with family-owned. We don't have the hierarchies.
Yeah. As we're sitting on the university right now, when we talked the first time, what I was quite inspired is also that you cooperate also with universities to develop new products or to get ahead. So can you just give us a bit more insights, like how you do a cooperation with universities? Because as we just talked in Elevator, that normally there are companies who just taking a big chunk of the subsidies in order just to organize the whole way of working with university. What is your experience?
I love working with universities because, as I said, we don't have many employees, so I need to add to that pool. Also, I think innovation is crucial when you want to recruit talent. And how do we do it? Very easy. I actually call them or talk to them at networking events. I don't hold back. I don't really think we should always go to third parties when we can just communicate together. So I always call it the magic coffee. Yeah. You need to have the time to have the coffee with a person that might have your solution. And it's actually through my network that we started working together and we started doing smaller projects, and now they're growing. You mentioned the robot. we could have never, as a family business, afforded to even buy the robot. It's you can order it online. It's not very hard, but it costs around 130,000 euros. We don't have any budget for innovation. So what we did there was I actually just searched my network and thought, who's the best in humanoid robotics? So who is actually ahead of time when it comes to solving things and construction? Because that's what we do. We do manual work in Orange. It wasn't a joke. We work next to the train track and we often use shovels. So when I think about robotics, it's like 5 steps to the innovation. And the university has often the students have a very clear goal in mind. They want to do research on a very specific topic. And that can help because I don't need extended to-do lists. I don't need the big picture. Sometimes I just need a small solution for a little thing. And when you have solution-orientated students, which is the best case scenario, you can together work on something and try it. And that's where we can bring the magic on track. Because it doesn't help to, and I've learned that in the big corporation, the laboratory is all nice, but it's not the real world. And often what we discover in the laboratory is irrelevant when you come outside. And that is even more the case when we get to construction and railroad construction. So I think the magic between us is the knowledge on their side and the construction side on ours.
You talked about the LAT Group because also that we're getting close to rail up in our topic. So actually what the LAT Group is doing.
Okay, we have these 2 parts that we focus on. One is infrastructure, so it's everything outside where we wear orange and where we still require a lot of manpower to get things done. We actually do a big part of our work in cable construction. We don't have much space next to the railroad tracks, so it's less automated than you would imagine. Often we can't bring the large cable rolls to the track, so it's manual work. Got 10 people carrying a cable for kilometers at a time. It's very old work in a way that in 60 years we haven't changed much. So there's a lot of room for innovation. The other thing that we work in is inside the car, so inside buses, trams and trains. And there we do CCTV and security technology. It's much easier to innovate in that field because we got artificial intelligence. So we started to count people. We monitor aggressiveness, for example, to prevent crime. Those jumps in innovation are much faster and easier, but we still use universities and startups because as a family business, sometimes we don't look outside the box. So we need them to think ahead for us. And there's actually studies on that humans tend to pick the innovation that is most likely to the previous solution. But that's not real innovation.
I would agree on that, but let's go for a minute also like in the real world to working on the tracks. I think that's one of the most areas where you don't go because, like as I said in the introduction, we're talking about of all the cloud-based services with artificial intelligence. You said it like to recognize some eager like in your face or whatever. But at the end of the day, to make connectivity work, you need at the end cables.
The best plan doesn't help if you're not willing to build it. So it's not just the cables; it's actually the whole infrastructure, and we can't digitize that. Which is nice in a way, it's the best thing for me in terms of motivation to go outside to the construction site. Manual work makes people happy. It's also really tough though, and we work at night during vacation, Christmas, whenever the train doesn't run. So it's also a challenge to keep everyone happy and motivated.
Is there any innovation ongoing like on the tracks? I think we just had the robot in the first place. I guess it's not walking inside the cabin.
Actually, there is a case where they use it to monitor
the lost luggages or this.
I've seen some pictures, but that's not the best use case from my perspective. What we have in this train world is a very old infrastructure with a lot of old cables. And now we add new ones. And the things we can't miss out on is a good documentation because they're not all buried underground. So some of them we can see, but some we can't. And now imagine our construction site. We come with really big machinery. The cables break. And you have entire districts, the lights turn off if you don't know where the bigger cable was. So the robot comes in at exactly that point that we need good, strong documentation, and we don't need it the way we used to. We need best possible case scenario in the BIM system, so building information technology. That also means we need pictures from different perspectives. They're not one-dimensional anymore. And the robot does exactly that. It documents whatever we build, when we build it, but it enables us to have our electricians do the real work, and the robot just documents what they do.
And then you start invoicing and also getting the data real time.
Yeah, the invoicing is separate. We work with an app and we need to document a little bit separately for the invoicing. I think in the end, that's the bigger vision. It'll all come together. Right now, we still send paper from A to B, but that's the requirements of our customers. So we do that. But in the end, yeah, that's what it is. You can actually do real-time invoicing. And it will be specific and transparent, because we're always scared in this, and especially in the track area, that there's stuff going on that we invoice too much. And we're scared that we invoice too little because it seems like such hard work. And when we come to the point where we can actually invoice what we've actually built with all the complications that weren't in the plan, because, hey, this is reality, I think it'll be much easier for both sides to focus on getting the work done rather than, and that's in the stage we're in now, getting just the paperwork and never the construction right.
I get always angry when I check into a hotel that they really printing then the invoice. I have to sign the invoice. I have to put the invoice digital again, my booking department. So it's a lot of effort, and at the end of the day, it's zero value added.
Yeah, we still need our governments to catch up a little bit, but I think they're on track, actually. I start believing in them a little bit more now. We have such big technology jumps, and we always expect that everything changes in the same speed. But we have to accept as a society that sometimes change takes time. And once the laws catch up, at least the technology is ready, so you'll be happy to not sign anything anymore. It'll just be your face in the camera and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're going there. We also have the digital signature already in most of the public cases, so that's ongoing. But about data, we frequently discuss how to use the data, and we had it also like in all the podcasts, and even Fabian just told like one topic surrounding all the Rail Talks events is basically data, how we should use the data.
And what's the result and the painful truth? Data alone doesn't do the magic. Exactly. And if you don't share the data, you can never kind of retrieve that treasure. And the other thing is sometimes we just have too much data. We have learned to collect. We haven't really learned to throw away. In that project, we're in project phase 2 now with the robot. Actually, the one main thing we're focusing on is the pictures we don't need, to make sure that the data we transfer goes quickly and is relevant to everyone listening. Get rid of some data to make use of the relevant data. That'll be much easier than what you're doing right now.
I mean, it's just to remind me, like on the photos on your phone, right? Instead of deleting photos, you just go for a more extended cloud space.
Well, there's a really good app that cleans the photos. It's like really basic AI, but it works.
The companies I'll talk to, it's basically they don't know how to use the data, but before they're sharing data, they just said, okay, we don't share the data because we don't know what's happening then afterwards. So I think, because you mentioned in one previous talk that you had already cooperation with like one company, like the small, now big startup, where you also had like the idea, should we do it or not? And you decided then to do so. And I think that's one of the most crucial topics, especially in Europe. I guess in the US it's a little bit different, but really sharing data is in Europe something complicated.
Yeah, the startup you're talking about is Brighter AI, and they come from this whole car mobility area. What we wanted to do with them in the beginning was count passengers. It's a pricing thing. And we just wanted to solve to know how many people actually used this public transport at what time. I never thought that would be complicated because it's not relevant who it is. It's just relevant how many at what time. And it became a journey of complexity. Now I think, looking back, I think, why did we make it so hard on us? But the truth is, there's a big fear of doing things wrong. And that's a very German mentality. And then Europe has this extreme data protection law that is very hard to read if you're not actually doing the job. And then so we have people at their desks interpreting what this law could mean. And then you have people outside, complete different idea of what this law could mean. And they hardly ever talk. Second magic coffee. Yeah. Talk it out. Yeah. Talk about what the real technical challenge is. Because mostly it's fear, and it's human fear, preventing us from being innovative. And in that specific case, we found a way to just delete the pictures and the faces, actually, and replace them with fake faces. And the moment that happened in real time and we could prove it, we were allowed to transmit the data. And the benefit of that is not to, before, they said just transmit the numbers, but numbers are dead. And in transmitting the whole video sequence, we were able to also detect aggression, fast movement. And that's really when it becomes a safety thing. You can prevent crime from happening, which is always much more efficient than trying to find out who killed the person, rather save the life.
I mean, it's already like the Minority Report direction we're going to. But I can also agree, like I was just fascinating. I think it was just 2 days ago when there was the third Starship launch. And basically in the US media, it was written, so we went into space so far as never before. And SpaceX is super. And like in Austrian newspaper just stated, again, a failed test of this rocket. So this underlines a little bit like our topic.
Yeah, but we have to redefine failure. Exactly. That's our job as a European society. We always think failure is something bad. It's not. It's the way we learn. And we just have to make sure we reflect and actually learn something. And that's, I think, the perspective that rapidly needs to change if we want to keep being innovative and if we want to keep leading projects in a global perspective.
Absolutely. You're working also like a very like hands-on in the railway sector. So just your perspective of the ecosystem of rail. What would be your today judgment? Is everything on track, or do we have big difficulties? What is your experience to work in the ecosystem of rail?
Okay, maybe 3 learnings. First of all, it's very easy to talk bad of something you don't understand. And it's also a perceptive thing. So let's stick to the facts. Are we heading towards the future? Yes, we are. We've got ETCS coming in. We've got a lot of digital things happening in the railroad environment. And we're actually making technology jumps in such a short time frame in an infrastructure that hasn't changed in decades. So yes, we are on track. Is the way we're doing it very efficient? Second learning? No, probably not, because we got a lot of people involved that are stuck at their desk and they don't know much of their infrastructure. And it's these things that slow us down. It's, for example, a planner that creates a plan but has never been on site because no time. It's always our excuse. No time, I have no time. But no time also means you create much more work than needed and much more stress than needed because the first person in that food chain hasn't been on site. So second learning, if we want to be more efficient, let's spend time on track. And the third part is we have to work together. And that you said it, you mentioned it, when we're scared of sharing data. And it starts with that, but we're one society. And I watched a movie yesterday, it's called Mobility is a Human Ride, RIDE. It's a Deutsche Bahn movie. It's got very little to do with trains and much with our motivation and why we should solve these problems. And it's actually the first time they inspired me. And so I think we're heading towards the right direction, but we also have to figure out how to do it together and forget about the competition in our industry. And that's hard, but I'm leading a company and I can say it. We will not benefit if we don't work together. If we work together, we will all benefit, so the cake grows.
That's a good approach, but it's quite an interesting point. Like, I mean, you're very open-minded personalities. You deal a lot with technology, so you would say basically what you're doing actually for DB Netz and all the infrastructure managers is basically really to get already high-end technology into the tracks?
Yeah, and let's get your hopes up a little. Those that thought she doesn't know what she's talking about, we're moving backward. So we have this startup called Konux. They're doing
switchings.
Yeah, so censorship for that. AxoTrack, another one to keep your eyes on. And then we have all this innovation going on inside the trains. So it's not nothing is happening. It's just it feels like it's hard to make something happen. And I feel that with the tech startups, how many have joined our industry and left again, fully frustrated. But then maybe it's up to us also to open up a little. I mean, we've got really strong laws in Germany. The EBA, they're our gods, you know. They are trying to become more innovative. And it's right that they protect safety over everything. That's always their excuse. Let's be safe. But we have to admit, and here's one of my examples, that a guy blowing a whistle warning you of a train that comes with a speed of over 200k is not safe. So we also have to take this whole list that we have and maybe cross out those things that we don't need anymore.
In terms of like this 5G, because like when I just started ETCS, you mentioned it before, in which direction we're going. I mean, we have such a long time to go there. I mean, if you just see the plans of infrastructure manager, when they will start to equip the secondary network, we are already 2040 something.
So much for motivation. They really know how to motivate their target group.
Yeah, but I will be still in the business at the time. And it's slow, but it encouraged me that your profound view on the things is that we're already going ahead. What would be your picture how railway looks like in 2050?
More passenger friendly. In our industry, we like to innovate very far away from our customer. Not a good idea. So more user-centric development. Trust is a huge thing. Punctuality, and I think I can say that from working in infrastructure. The infrastructure is just not there. We haven't invested enough money to be able to run trains on time and to be reliable. So I think we will get there, though. Then the major point is let those startups enter our sector. And we've put the highest walls up because, let's be honest, we're protecting our business. We don't want anyone else to play in the game. But if we don't finally allow people to play that game and other companies to come in, we will never see true innovation.
My first RAILUP podcast was actually with Nathan. He is an investor, and he said, like, the investors, if you just see railway, they're just running away because they're just saying, okay, it's a lot of funding to invest on the one hand, and basically you just have the feeling they don't want to change, right? They want to make the same things forever, right? And as you said, I think especially for the infrastructure, I mean, tracks are tracks, and to construct a tunnel, I mean, it's for not for decades. I just visited recently a tunnel construction, and they're building up the tunnel for 150 years, right?
Maybe it's one thing too that the tenders need to adapt to the speed of time. And our tender construct, I don't know how it is in Austria, but in Germany it's really strict. And you put a tender out there and they define everything to the last screw. And then when the tender comes through and the construction is actually happening, time has already come up with better solutions, but there's no possibility legally to change what you're building. And I think we really have to look at that. And it's probably happening. I'm not a law person, but I would assume that everyone in our industry in law is looking exactly at that. How can we open up tenders? How can we make room for ideas? How can we prevent long tenders that actually block out innovation because they're 10 or 15 years old? And maybe also, coming from a family-owned business, why don't you let people that know their stuff bring in their ideas? And don't define it till the last screw. That's what's killing us.
So basically, what you're saying that you should just say, okay, I want to solve this problem, and you decide how to do it.
This is our problem, solve it.
Yeah.
But then we also have to get away from legal defining what mobility is. And that's what is happening a little bit because fear is one of the biggest drivers of our society. And I love going to other countries. And I know politically might not be the best idea, but Dubai, for example, they have no fear. I don't know how they're doing it. They build stuff and then problems arise. For example, the water is a problem in Dubai when it rains. But then they find a solution for that too. And I think there's a big difference in the way they go about things. They start doing and then they start correcting. And that's much faster than thinking the whole thing through till the end and then correcting what was kind of inevitable, but pretending everything is right.
Yeah, correct. If you would be the Commissioner for Transport in the European Union and you would have one topic to address for the transport sector, what would be your headline?
Probably new regulations to make construction work.
Okay, in terms of make it easier to...
I think that we are hiding behind laws a lot and it's not helpful. It's just making everything really complex. I don't know if that's a good headline to win an election, and that's their biggest problem, that our politicians are thinking in election terms. And infrastructure is not a thing to think in election terms. You can't have the fast win. And you said it with the investor, it's true. No 4-year win in infrastructure. So if it's only about winning an election, and that's what we have to really move away from, I think we should come back to our core values. If you're doing it to help society, you're a good politician. Then help them long term and forget about if you're going to be elected again. So that's the number one conflict I see all the time. The thing for infrastructure would be, I think if we look at it like a to-do list, clear out that to-do list and start working with priorities. And then finally accept these cost money. I'm so tired of hearing we don't have money for our railroad infrastructure. That's the biggest joke ever. If you don't invest in infrastructure, you can't change it. And the other very clear picture is every time a country invests in infrastructure, they get more...
It pays off at the end of the day.
Oh, you create new jobs, you create more energy. And the biggest thing is the country actually makes money on it. The taxes rise. So there's a very natural way of making a country win, invest in infrastructure. And all our politicians are ignoring it. I think mostly of a fear not to be elected again. That's a pity.
I just read the report of the Ministry of Transport in Germany, Wissing, stating basically the road will grow faster than the rail till 2050, so the modal split will even decrease. And then there was more or less so the headline, but it's okay. And if I just see in front which ecological challenges we have, and we know that a rail is, in terms of energy efficient, it's 4 times higher. I think
and safety.
And safety, correct.
There's so many arguments that speak for rail.
And we just let it happen, actually.
But road is so much faster and easier to do. It's got no complexity. And I've never seen Volker Wissing at the train track. Only for a picture. I've never seen him talk to construction guys. It's a real pity. He should get out of that office and actually spend some time with the people that have a passion for railroad and track. And then learn also, and I think he knows the numbers. I think it's just a motivational question. Learn also what it means for everyone to be able to use a mode of transport freely and easily. Maybe I'll go back to that wish you had. What can I wish for as a European transport commissioner? Yeah. Privatize rail. Everyone's going to hate me for it. I think a competition would help.
On infrastructure.
Yes. Because if you own something, truly own it, like a family business, you will take care of it. You will never let it break like that. Because you take care of what you invest in.
You are working with universities. You just went from a big corporation into family business, And what was your experience? Because I can imagine that, as you also stated, basically construction works, let's say it's like an old mentality business, but it's through work, and I personally like it. But I can imagine that as a inspiring lady takes over like a family business, how was this experience? Was this...
The lady, they were just waiting for me on the construction site for all the wrong reasons. Well, a little bit of my story. My father died of a heart attack, and we're 4 girls. He didn't have a son. And he always told me, I have this cool friend. He's got 4 sons, and they're going to take over his business. I did meet that friend a year ago. He's 93. He's still running his business. His oldest son is now a theologist, so he went into religion. So no one took over that business. But the truth is, when we started, and it was overnight that we accepted that job, sort of, the only thing that kept us going was our team. And I think that's the lesson I learned very quickly. I have a lot of experts in my team to hear their voice and to actually make sure that they take the decision is so much power, and that's what made us strong. To trust those people that do the job, that know their stuff, to take a decision. And maybe that's also a secret we have to come back to in Germany. Then the second part is, when you come to an old business like this one, you can accept it, or you can see all the opportunities that are in it. And I think for both of us, we have work until the end of our career. And that's the upside of railroad. We will never run out of work. There's so much to do. And so I did like that. But I made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't born for railroad. My first years were mistakes. But I learned something out.
Would you again go for railroad if it would be your personal? It's like your free choice. Let's put it that way.
In the end, it was my free choice, because we had 6 months that we used. And after those 6 months, I should have gone back to my original job. The truth is, I didn't want to. I love this. I love the mobility sector. I think we're a big family. And I like the passion of the people that work in mobility. Everyone knows, every one of us, I think, knows why we're doing this job. So that's something that every other trade is probably jealous of. And that's the reason I stayed. And the reason that we do so many projects with universities and also innovative projects is because I have a passion for mobility. And it's very hard to shut this passion down.
I fully agree. And this is like what motivates me also doing the podcast at the end of the day, and also now with the Rail Talks community, because there are so many cool people, but unfortunately they are not the front runner, or that's not the people who are in the first line in the first place.
Oh, but they will be. And let me tell you from experience, and I can make a joke of that.
Okay.
In the end, you will be in the first row. And it's all about being brave until then. And not holding back, and not always blaming the decision maker. Because my boss doesn't want it. Well, then you haven't convinced him. That's the other side of the coin. If you have a real case, you can convince anyone. Then it's not about the position you're in. It's about if you want to make it happen or not.
One of your big private plan, or let's call it vision, is to sail around the world. And I heard that a friend of you proposed you to invite different people for different legs to get to know them. It is very often mentioned that the network with the right people is essential into the world of mobility. Is it really that important from your point of view?
First of all, goals. Really I believe in goals, and I even more believe in milestones. If you have a big goal and you break it down into milestones, if it's for private, like the sale, or for anything that we do with LAT, then it becomes achievable. And even more important, setting a time to the goals that you want to achieve. Now to sailing and the network question. I always ask, what motivates you? And I'm motivated by dreams. I need them to keep me going. So the sale is one of my dreams. It'll keep me going for sure. The network is what I use to make things happen. And I said it, we're a small family-owned business with very little budget. I need to know the people that I can call when I have a problem. And also, the best part, I need to know which experts to call to help me out of that problem. I love networks. That's why probably I'm very active in women in mobility, because it's something I never had. When I started in this industry, I didn't know anyone. And the people in my team knew men, a lot of men, but they never knew the woman. But many of them were actually in the departments that were relevant to us. So I started joining Women in Mobility and doing a lot of work with them. Then I realized our world is not just women. It's both. And it's helpful to play in both worlds. And I think a network like Rail Talks, for example, is what motivates me throughout the day. If things go wrong, then that helps me stand up. But most importantly, it's very solution-orientated. And as I said, I always like to ask the expert. I like to ask the people that actually do the work, or that are in the middle of a project that is similar to mine, because it's the fastest way to get a solution.
I love this approach because I love to be outside and talk to the local drivers and all the guys to just understand what they're really doing. We're sitting too much in the offices.
And to find out what the real problem is. Sometimes it's something so small, but in that chain of communication from one email to another, it builds up to become something impossible. And if you break that chain and go to the first person that said we have a problem, sometimes you find out it's just one cable that's missing. And look how that turned into a tender that is about €1.5 million later. But it's just one cable we're talking about. And it's coming back to that, figuring out the essence of the problem from someone who might even know how to solve it but didn't dare to say it.
Especially in international context, I think it's even more important because between the languages, I mean, there you can lose so much content and how people really meaning something, right? And if you talk on a precise problem to solve it, then it's much more easier to describe it.
The truth is also to visualize things. And that's why I like being outside, to actually see the problem helps, because you can describe a thing to another. And there's this perfect examples from the consultant guys to describe a thing. And then it turns out everyone is hearing something different. And if you get them to draw it, all the pictures differ. So to be talking on site about something you can actually see helps.
And how you structure your time as a mom, as a CEO and a leader. For me, the significant qualities of a leader are often defined more by what they choose not to do rather than by their action.
Okay, the length of my to-do list is maximum 5. So priorities. Then it's not about what you don't do, it's about what your team can do. The multiplication comes through my team. Of course, I can only sit here with you and talk it out because I have a huge team in the background that love their work and that are actually working in construction as we talk. They don't need me there to monitor them. They know their stuff. They know what they're doing. And most importantly, they know how to take decisions. Because it doesn't help to have a team that doesn't take decisions. That's just everything coming back to you at a certain point of time. So I focus on that. And the truth is, I've been in this job 8 years now. And I've always focused on making sure everyone in our company can take their own decisions. That includes being ready to live with the mistakes they make. And sometimes that's really painful. You just have to look away and say, this is going to be a mistake, but let's still get it done. And I have to remind myself of that, letting other people do things even though they might make a mistake, because it's the only way to be productive and to be truly productive and have a bigger reach. And then the other part is, and I've only mentioned it at the beginning, I don't lead this company alone. I have my sister. And she's always there in the company. She never leaves it. She loves it. She hates being outside. So also the team of us and the people that we've included in our team, we're 5 now leading LAT, is what makes us really powerful. Of course, not everyone has the benefit of a sister that you can trust with a blindfold, but it comes to that also, that we have to learn to lead together. I think we're over this patriarchic, one leader only. That's not our culture today. That's not how you can get it done. Especially because all our teams, they're humans, they're people, and they have their needs. And more so than today, ever, I think, before, they can find answers to technical problems online, but the emotional ones, are often within our scope. We have to make sure they stay on track in that sense. And that's a challenge because emotional things take time. It's very different than a mathematical answer. But I think we can adapt to that. And everyone's aware of Google and Co. You can find anything. Even how to do cabling around the track is online. But how to get your family problem solved and how to stay motivated in what you do, that's the bigger challenge.
That's so true, and I think you hit a very essential point. In the end, we are people's business, and therefore we need to care and motivate our teams. For me, the world of mobility it's so much more. It's bigger. It's a branch that has the power to shape our society and the future. And that's what RAILUP and Rail Talks it's about, to connect people and to shape the ecosystem of rail. Larissa, it was a pleasure having you in my podcast, and I'm already excited seeing you at the Rail Talks tonight. Welcome to the RAILUP Club, and thanks to the University of Wildau for hosting us.
What is the contribution to drive climate change?
I once learned, think global, act local, and I believe in that. So at LAT, we're making sure we have the solar roofs, we drive circular economy, we try to reduce the use of paper through going much more digital. But then it's also about inspiring everyone else to stay on track. And I think working on the railroad system itself is quite a big contribution.
The ball is in your court. What is the next step to drive change?
I believe in driving change through goals, but also through milestones that are achievable.
Which superhero do we need to avoid the climate disaster?
You know what? That's a weird one, but I've just, for the first time in my life, been to a boxing championship. And I watched a boxer fail and fall to the ground. And a few minutes later, he got up to talk to the press. And he said, this didn't go like I planned at all. But I learned a lot and I'm going to stay in the ring. And I thought that's what we need, room for failure and admitting to that and being ready to learn from it.
What's the takeaway from this episode?
You should get started if you have a good idea. What started 1 year ago at Rail Talks has turned into a perfect way to connect more inspiring minds and new ideas in the ecosystem of rail. Larissa underscored this with her great insights in this podcast episode. It was very encouraging for me to learn that it is possible to transform old economy family companies into new innovation hubs without losing the soul and staying grounded. We also learned that physical infrastructure such as cables and 5G antennas is necessary to enable the magic of connectivity. And that's hard work. Therefore, a big thank you to all the teams out there working through the night, the rain and the sun to enable connectivity. We also learned that a smart approach to the GDPR can enable AI to make rail a much safer space, and that sharing data could have multiple benefits. But to become more efficient and to utilize the latest technology, the public tendering process should be modified to focus more on specific requirements rather than providing a very detailed manual on how to do it. I was also surprised to find that joint projects with universities are not rocket science and are relatively easy to access. You just need the magic coffee, as Larissa said, and then robots will walk through the tracks. I was inspired by Larissa's big dream to sail around the world to meet new minds and find new inspiration to shape the rail ecosystem, and that's RAILUP.
This podcast connects innovators and leaders worldwide to shape the future ecosystem of rail. RAILUP by Sebastian Sperker.